Hello friends, how are you today? I'm back with you as you're digging into your summer reading to talk to you about archaeology once again. We're digging into the past by looking at artifacts, talking about how they told stories with petroglyphs and hieroglyphs. I hope that you've enjoyed this time together. I know I have. Today I wanted to talk to you about just where you might go to discover people of the past. You could go in your own backyard. You could look for arrowheads to find remnants of what the people of the past left behind so you can find those artifacts. But did you know that about 142 miles from Marshall, it's about a 2.5-hour drive towards St. Louis, is one of the largest archaeological discoveries in the United States? Did you know that? That Illinois had that? That's amazing. You can go to a place called Cahokia Mounds and discover so much of what they have learned about the people of the past, the Mississippian culture. This is a long time ago. This is from the people of the past that is before some of the things that we talk about in our classrooms, which is amazing. But I want to show you a map of Illinois. Here's a map of Illinois. If y'all don't have a map, you need to get one because maps are so fun to get out and look at. We have gotten into the culture of everything being on GPS. So we get out our phones or we plug it into our cars and we go. But I can remember, and your parents might remember too, or grandparents, going on a trip and getting out a map and unfolding it. Well, this is a map of Illinois. And on this map, you can see here is Terre Haute, Indiana. So right across the river in Terre Haute, there's Marshall. And up there is Paris. And we've got down here, if we go down Route 1, past Marshall, here we go, there's Annapolis, and we get to Robinson. So here's where we live. Cahokia Mounds can be found between St. Louis and Collinsville in this area right over here. So all you have to do is hop on the I-70 and drive all the way over to Cahokia Mounds. And you can go and visit their visitor center and take a look around. I am sure it's fascinating. I've never been there. So maybe that's a trip that I need to make this summer. I'm going to share a video with you, just a short video about Cahokia Mounds. I hope you enjoy it. And when you get back, I'm going to show you some things that I have, just really cool artifacts to show you. All right, enjoy the video. We'll be back.
Cahokia Mounds is part of a state historic site. It represents the largest prehistoric Indian settlement there ever was in America, north of Mexico. The site originally covered about 6 square miles, had around 120 mounds and a population at its peak around 10 to 20,000 people. And that peak was probably somewhere between about 1050 and 1150 AD. And the people we refer to as Mississippians, we don't know what the actual name of the culture was, but that's the term that we archaeologists use for cultural tradition. It's very widespread, but this was the first and the biggest settlements that were built by the Mississippian people, who we find throughout the Mississippi Valley and throughout the southeastern U.S. What we've learned about the people here has been basically through archaeology. We've had a number of excavations over the years, but probably if you put all the digs together, because of Cahokia's huge size, probably less than 1% of the site's been excavated, but we've learned a lot from that. And we know about, the different kinds of pottery styles they made, the house styles, the types of mounds. They basically built 3 types of mounds here. And the most common variety is what we call a temple mound or a platform mound. These are rectangular, flat-top mounds that had buildings on top of them. They're not for burials. So they're raising up important activities, important people higher than everybody else. So we see evidence of sort of a hierarchy in their society. The conical or round-top mounds and what we call ridge-top mounds, ones that are longer than they are wide, seem to have mortuary functions, but also to mark important locations throughout the community. Cahokia has several designations. It is a state historic site owned by the state of Illinois. But it's also a National Historic Landmark, and there's also a World Heritage Site, designated so by UNESCO. And there's a movement right now to try and make it into a National Historical Park through the National Park Service. There's been a bill introduced into Congress, and this will help certainly give more recognition and attention to Cahokia, and will hopefully increase some funding and staffing of the site so we can offer more. But it's going to be a long process. It's going to take several years. When people come here, we suggest that they visit the Interpretive Center. The exhibits are laid out in sort of island formats. Each island has a different topic or theme. Like one is about time, one is about culture, one's about the material things they made and used, one's about beliefs and customs. And it's all set up with displays of artifacts, a lot of graphics and murals and maps. Then if people want to do something outside, we have self-guided tours that people can utilize. They can get a free cassette player at the information desk, or they can rent iPods. Those all have the 3 outside tours on them. There's 3 different areas that we recommend. One is what we call the Grand Plaza, Twin Mounds. That's a sidewalk trail that leads from the Interpretive Center. And also there's a sidewalk that goes to Monk's Mound. That's the only mound you can climb, and it goes 100 feet high. It's 156 stairs to the top. And it's the largest prehistoric, totally earthen mound built by ancient people in America. And also you can see the reconstruction of the wood hinge, their sun calendar, a large circle of posts that was used to align with the rising sun at different times of the year. So there are certain posts that mark the equinoxes and solstices and other important dates in their ritual calendar. You know, it's important to understand that there was something here and people here before, Jamestown or Williamsburg and places like that. People were here in at least 12 to 15,000 BC. And so there are thousands and thousands of years of culture change and development and improvements and technology. We're talking about the Native American cultures that were here and developed very complex societies.
Hey, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed learning just a little bit about Cahokia Mounds and it piqued your interest and will make you want to get in the car and take a family trip and go over and discover more about Cahokia. But I have something I want to share with you, and I have a table I'm going to show you full of artifacts that my friend Tom from the Illinois Department of Natural Resources has shared with me. They have some really great educational resources if you're a teacher or an educator that you can check out. They've got these great trunks full of great hands-on material that you can use in your classroom. So if you're a teacher, you might want to check that out. But I'm gonna flip the camera around, and so give me a second and I'll be right back to show you. All right, here are some of the great artifacts that are in the box that I got that I am going to tell you about each one so you can learn right along with me what they are and what the people use them for. And you might look at them and already know. Do you know what those are? I bet you do. Okay, all right, so let's take a look at each one, and I will tell you a little bit about them as we go. All right. Okay, so here's the first artifact I have for you. This is actually a gourd. It's a dried gourd, and dried gourds were used in a variety of ways. They could be used as rattles, as well as for dippers and other storage or cooking processes. That is a gourd. Isn't it pretty? Okay. The next item I have to show you is actually from Cahokia Mounds. Both of these items are. What does that look like to you? What does that look like? Okay, get in your mind what you think that looks like. And what about this one? Oh, look at that. What does that look like to you? Does it look like an animal of some sort? Look at the carvings. Oh, well, what are they? Well, guess what? This is a beaver bowl. And this, if you guessed it already, yes, this is a duck bowl. So effigy figures are a portrait, a statue, or a likeness of a person or animal. So these are actually called effigy bowls, and they're from Illinois, and they are associated with fertility, water symbolism, and the natural resources of the water or the wetlands. And you can see the detail that's in them on this pottery. Remember, we looked at pottery last week. We talked about pottery as well. So though, that's a beaver and a duck bowl, and that is from the Cahokia Mounds. All right, this next one I want to show you is, I think you might be able to guess what this is. I looked at it and I thought, you know, it looks like a kazoo, doesn't it? You know what a kazoo is, right? It's a thing you blow in and makes noise. Well, this is actually a pipe. Yeah, a pipe. Native Americans used pipes as part of religious and other ceremonies. So that is a pipe, and this is from the Cahokia Mounds. And of course, these are replicas. They're not, a replica is something that is made to look like an original. They would never let me just handle all these original artifacts. So these are replicas. Okay, this next one, this is called a wood henge beaker. Now, if you look at the center, it has a carving in it. And it is a carving of Woodhenge. If you remember, we talked about Stonehenge in England, and Woodhenge is essentially the same type of design. They were circular poles that they used for different types of ceremonies, and it had to help them, you know, tell time and things like that. They used the sun and the moon and the stars and all of it, just like they did at Stonehenge. So Woodhenge is, you'll see this design a lot from pottery from this time period because of the Woodhenge significance. But this is from the Middle Mississippi period. This is a beaker, and it was made from pottery, and it was used, you could use it as a cup or a pot. So you could see it has a handle on it, so you could easily carry it. Again, this is a replica. It's not an original. It's something someone made to look like the original artifact. But that is a Woodhenge beaker. All right, let's look at some of the other things I have over here. Let me move these papers out of the way. Look at these. Let's see. What is this? What do you think this is? It's kind of tough. What do you think this is? Any guesses? This is rawhide. And rawhide is animal skin that's cleaned of hair and the tissue. Native Americans used rawhide to make leather, bags, drums, or to cut into strips to lash stools, to make tools or wooden handles, excuse me. So they use that. So if this is rawhide, remember that's animal skin that's cleaned of hair and tissue. What is this? What does this look like? What do you think this is? Well, I think it's something that started out like that and turned into that. What do you think? Yeah, this is called tanned or softened leather made from this animal skin. Native Americans used this to make clothing, bags, and shoes. So this is what you're used to seeing. Used to seeing the finished product, the tanned leather that starts like this. Is that amazing? There's quite a process that they use to go from this to this. And if you've ever seen that, you might let me know if you visited somewhere where they show you how that works. All right, the next thing I want to show you are those. And what, I bet you have seen these before. What do you think these are? I bet you guessed it. I bet you're shouting it right now. Yes, these are arrowheads. These are arrowheads, and a lot of people find these walking around the woods, or even in their own backyards, you might find arrowheads. But arrowheads were used for hunting animals to eat, and they were also used for defense. So those are arrowheads. Okay, now, what else do we have? What do those look like to you? What do those look like to you? What do you think those are? Now, you might think, I've been to the beach, because they look like some type of a shell. And you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. This is a mussel shell. Look at the inside. So this is a mussel shell. And mussel shells were used for utensils to eat off of, like a spoon. See how you could use it as a spoon? It's dipped inside. You could take that and easily use it like a spoon. And they also use it as a hoe. It's very strong, so you could dig with it. And the mussel, what was used to be inside, the mussel was inside, because this is just its shell. The mussel is gone. You would eat the mussel. So if you've ever had an oyster or something like that, the oysters are a type of mussel. So you look inside, oh, there used to be something in there to eat. It's gone, and now they're using the shells to actually eat with or dig with. So those are mussel shells. Okay, what else do we have? What's so special about this? This just looks like something you would find in your driveway, right? I mean, what is that? Well, that is igneous rock. And what's cool about igneous rock is it's rock that we know is from a volcano. So they would use these rocks are really sturdy and hard. So they would use these to crush nuts and corn. They would grind it to make tools. They would use, like axes, they would use it to sharpen things. They would also heat these rocks. Heat them like you do coals in a fire. And they would drop hot rocks into animal stomachs that they had cleaned out to boil water. The stone boiling method of cooking was done before the invention of pottery. So before pottery was even invented, they were using the stomach lining of an animal to boil water in. Is that amazing? Pretty cool. All right. All right, what's the next thing we have? What are these? Now, I've got to tell you, when I first saw them, I thought, well, they look like something you might give your dog to chew on, or maybe beef jerky of some sort. But what are those? What is that? What is that? These are deer tendons. So you know that the Native Americans hunted. They were very good hunters. They used those arrowheads. They would kill the deer, and they would use the deer for food. They would use the skin for the rawhide, and then to make the leather. But they would also use other parts. And so here's another part they would use. This is a tendon. And so what do you think they use these for? Well, a lot of times they would use tendons to make things with. So they could make it pretty small, and they would use it to sew. That's one thing they would use the tendons for. So that is a deer tendon. All right. What else do we have? I wonder if you know what those are. Let's take a look. Any clue? What do you think these are? Yeah, if you guessed it, these are animal bones. These are bones. Bones. And bones of all animals killed were made into jewelry, fish hooks, sewing needles, tattoo needles, and awls. So they use these to make things with. And if you put it together, you could probably think, oh, yeah, I may have seen a necklace. I'm going to put it up here. A necklace with them all strung together. So these are animal bones. All right. I have one more thing to show you on here. And it's pretty familiar because we talked a lot about it last week. What is this? Remember, I showed you my son's pottery and how if they found it in pieces, they would have to try to piece it together to figure out what it was. Well, that is what we have here. This is pottery. So, pieces of pottery. And we know that what they use the pottery for, right? They would carry water in it. They would serve out of it, drink out of it. They would use, it had lots of many different purposes. So there's pieces of pottery. Look at all these artifacts. These are just some of what I was able to borrow from Tom at the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. Tom works down at Lincoln Trail State Park, so if you ever make it down there, stop in and say hello. Friends, we've come to the end of the lesson for today, and I hope that you enjoyed looking at these artifacts with me. Oh, you know what? I forgot one. Do you all know what this is? Well, I bet you're saying it out loud. You're probably telling me right now what it is. This is hard kernel or flint corn. And hard kernel flint corn was grown by the native peoples. The kernels were stripped from the cob with a deer jaw. Remember, they used all parts. This is a deer jaw. This is my jaw or mandible. So they would use the jaw of the deer to strip the kernels off. The corn kernels were then crushed with stones, grinding stones, probably made out of igneous rock, because remember, these are really strong. And they were processed into flour so they could make bread or other type of cornmeal mush. Corn. Sorry, I forgot that one. I just saw it sitting there as I was looking at all these things. But next week, we're going to dig into what it is to be an archaeologist. What is that career? What is an archaeologist? We know what they discover. They discover artifacts and they study peoples of the past. But what does an archaeologist do? So we're going to take a look at that. And we're also going to make a time capsule, which will be fun. So I'll show you what I'm going to put in mine and give you some ideas about how you can create your own time capsule and leave something behind for people to discover about what's going on right now. So, all right, I will talk to you later. Keep digging into those books. Keep reading. Have a great 4th of July weekend. Celebrate safely, and we will talk to you later. Bye-bye.